Episode 16 with Shokhi Banerjee, Suman versus Human.
I had grown up on a healthy dose of Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan 90s movies. And I used to love thinking that, oh, when I fall in love, it's going to be so amazing. And the man is going to woo me and like sweep me off my feet. You know that happily ever after is what I used to think.
Hello, my dear listeners. Today I have a fantastic guest on the show, Shokhi Banerjee, and she herself is a podcaster and she hosts a beautiful podcast called Happily Whatever After. Telling you guys, this is a show which is must to watch. So let me quickly call upon Shokhi Banerjee. Good evening, Shokhi.
Good evening, Sumanji.
So, Shokhi, first thing first,
Yes.
I want you to tell me about what is this podcast about.
Firstly, thank you so much for such a lovely introduction, Sumanji. Thank you so much for calling me on your show, and I'm glad that somebody has thought of asking me this question. I'm honored to be here and answering this question because actually it's not just me; it's a couple podcast. So me and my husband started this podcast because when we used to have any issues in our relationship, we used to feel very alone. Like we didn't used to talk to each other because obviously the issues are between the couple, and we didn't have anybody else to talk to. And we had to get through it all by ourselves. There was not a lot of help available. And you know, in our Indian society, when we think of relationship counseling or therapy or something like that, there's always a block. In Indian society, you know, therapy is always kind of taboo. Like people think that only when you are in dire state, like when it's a do or die situation, only then you go for therapy. And otherwise, therapy is considered to be some a big no-no. So we struggled alone when we were facing a lot of issues in our relationship. So finally, we decided now that we've reached a level where we have enough experience to share from our relationship, so we decided to share our mistakes so that other people can learn from those mistakes and not repeat them, so that those couples in relationships, in newly married couples or people who are newly in love, they don't repeat what we did and where we went wrong. So we were trying to tell people that they are not alone in this. A lot of couples go through the same situation. And secondly, we were trying to tell them that, look, this is what we have done wrong. So please, you don't repeat it.
The reason I'm having this question is because you
Hmm.
mentioned this is a mistake. People should not commit such kind of mistake. But my question is, why do you think it as a mistake at first place? It can be a differences. Why mistakes alone?
So there are, now that we have gone through our fair share of ups and downs in life, you can look back and, you know, identify that this is where I was operating from ego and not love in a relationship, right? And ego is the biggest enemy of any relationship, whether it's a husband wife relationship or it's some other relationship. In any relationship, if ego comes in between, then there are three people in the relationship.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
true.
those two people, and the third person is ego, who's driving the whole conflict. So between a husband and wife, it's always a mistake to bring in an ego, because, as I keep repeating on my podcast also, it's a life partner that you are living with, right? It's
Yes,
partners for life. So when
yes.
you bring in ego, it's no more a perspective or it's no more a way of looking at things. It's a mistake.
Correct.
This is what we've learned from our experiences. So which is why I name it as mistake, because there are a lot of instances where we went wrong by bringing in ego, or by not talking about it to each other, or by assuming that my husband must be thinking this, or my wife must be thinking this, and then just assuming the worst about our partners who actually love us, right? So why would we assume such bad things about them? So for me, for both of us, me and Karan, it was like a mistake that we could have saved ourselves from.
I have come across many couples in India where
Yeah,
they eventually start with some kind of small arguments. It grow up big, so big that it becomes very difficult to digest, and they end up shouting on each other. They end up beating each other. But most of the
correct.
cases, unfortunately, it is the women who always, takes that physical abuse, and she go
Yeah,
back home, and parents
yeah,
again, parents, they counsel women, though the husband is bad, though the husband is
correct.
wrong, this woman
Yeah,
is forced to get compromised, and she returns back home to her husband, and again she
correct.
start living her life with a big
And the
compromise on
cycle
her
repeats.
face.
Yeah,
So what do you have to say about it?
I feel like it's a very big problem uh, since childhood for us women. Like even I was trained that I'm a girl, and eventually my life's purpose is to get married and and take care of my family and have kids and everything. And also I was trained to not speak up, that palat ke, like as in don't talk back to your elders. You have to always remain quiet, and even if there's something being said wrong to you or bad to you, just assume that uh, you don't have to get into it, and don't take up too much space, and don't demand too many things. Be a good girl, you know. They always tell you to be a good person, a good girl. And a good girl definition is that you don't speak up for yourself. So you'll be a good girl, which is what happens in usually such abusive relationships, that you are so hardwired to believe that no, I'm not supposed to belong anywhere else other than my husband's home, that no matter how much abuse is happening to you, you first try to take it, you first try to digest it, that maybe I can make do with this, maybe I can live with this, maybe it's not so bad. And there are even like they say that women are women's worst enemies. So often women only tell us that um, this much is okay, this much is normal, this happens to everyone. They normalize those behaviors for other women. So somewhere they think that this is my fate and I have to accept it and I have to go back. Whereas what and honestly, it has happened to me also many times in life, that I have been told certain things by my in-laws or some relatives, and I have taken it quietly. I have not talked back to them ever, because I have always been told that that's a wrong thing to do. No matter what it is, you don't have to talk back. So I just believe that it's a societal conditioning, and which is very wrong, that has been transferred to us from many generations, that women are not supposed to talk, women are supposed to just be kind and nice and sweet and take care of the family at all points of time, no matter what happens to them. But I believe that the times are changing, and now we have a chance to stand up for ourselves, to empower our own self. If we are not able to do it, then there are a lot of other agencies available to us, lot of other NGOs and friends available to us who can help us. speak up when we are in an abusive relationship. So we should not stay in those relationships as women, and we should try to find a way out. Whether our parents are telling us to go back home to the same person, to the same abuse, or whether it is the fact that we think that we are not strong enough, we should always reach out for help. And I promise that there is help available. When you ask for help, you will get it. But we just, more often than not, we never ask for help.
I have also come across lawyers in India where
Yeah,
they always try to, not everyone, maybe not everyone, but uh, most of them, they always try to convince women only, and they
yeah,
try to make the marriage stand. But
correct.
they are not bothered whether the marriage is a happy marriage or not.
Again, I would say that it's not the lawyer's fault, they are conditioned. Firstly, they are only doing it as a profession, so they just want to get it over with and get the case in their favor eventually. And they also have the same conditioning. All men have a stronger conditioning that women are supposed to adjust, right? They're supposed to make or break a family. So why should men compromise or something like that? They'll always tell the women that if you change, then maybe things will change. If you change, everything will be fine. If you don't pick a fight with him, everything will be okay. So I would say that it's not the lawyer's fault also, because the lawyer has also seen the same kind of conditioning around him in his family, in our Indian society overall. So they're always assuming that the woman will make a difference. They'll change themselves and stop speaking or stop picking a fight, and everything will be fine. They never ask the males that why are you doing this, or what is this, what is why is this problem in your relationship. It's always look, the relationship or emotions or problems are always the girls part of the deal to handle, whereas finances, home security, all the non emotional things are a man's thing to deal with. That's how we've positioned it in our Indian society.
Is that right?
I don't think so. It's wrong for men also. Like I have seen men suffer under the pressure of, providing a certain amount of money every month for their family, for no matter whether it's in their capability or not. Which is why, so recently I was reading a research. There are 33% men in India who report depression,
Yeah.
and uh, probably a lot more are actually suffering, and they've not reported the depression, because they are constantly just working. They don't get to have a break at all. They are to provide for the family whether they are feeling okay or not. We
Yes.
have seen all our parents, right? Our fathers never really loved their jobs. Whatever they were feeling, whatever they were doing, they had to just go to the job, whether they liked it or not, because they had to provide for us, for our fees and everything. So this bifurcation that we have put in on males is also wrong. It has to be an equal partnership between a male and a female. It has to be a 50-50 partnership. And if it is not, then there has to be at least emotional support even for the males.
You said in India, people consider this as a taboo to go and see a doctor when the relationship suffers.
Yes.
Now, you tell me, Shoki, what is the right time to go and see a counselor or a doctor or a relationship manager?
You know how I would say that we talk in terms of medical terms, and it's a saying that prevention is better than cure, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that the same applies to even our mental health, that prevention is better than cure. So anybody who does not even have an issue in their relationship should in any case have a counselor or a therapist, so that if like how we have a family doctor, right? All of us
Yes.
have a family doctor who we trust, that okay hame like if something happens to us, any cold or cough or any kind of fever, we'll call that person and we trust that whatever that person will tell us will be fine for us, will cure us. So similarly we should all also have a mental health doctor, a therapist, a counselor, to basically reach out to when there is a when there is a, even a minor problem in the relationship, because they will give you the right tools to apply. For instance, again I'll give you the example that we know that crocin is a great paracetamol is a great thing to take when we are feeling under the weather, we have fever, or we are not feeling well, so we pop a crocin and we go to sleep. So that's a tool that has been given to us by a physician. Similarly, a mental health professional will also give you such tools that okay, if I've had a fight and a very bad fight with my husband and I want to just walk out right now and not take care of any problems that I have in the relationship, so the mental health professional would have provided me some tools that okay, when such fights happen, you have to take time out, not talk when you're angry, don't say things that you don't mean, and you walk away from the conversation. It's fine, it's okay. So if we all have that kind of a help available to us, we should take it, I would say. And now after COVID, thankfully, there are a lot of free counseling websites as well, which make you uh, have the access to easy counseling with which much lesser cheaper rates, and sometimes even free if you are in that need. So it I would again come back to the answer saying that it's there is no right time to get a relationship coach or a counselor. It's basically any time that you feel like you are getting into a relationship and you may think that there will be problems, you just have to go to a therapist or figure out a way to get some help, because it's prevention. Why would you wait that oh, now I my cold and cough has converted into pneumonia, so now I should go to the doctor. Similarly, why would you wait that now my relationship has gone to a very bad level, now is when I will go to therapy? So it should be looked upon like we look at our normal ailments, like normal physicians and normal medical things that we need in life.
Shoki, tell me how relationship problems are going to affect children.
Oh, this is my one of my favorite things to talk about on my podcast. So, if you would observe, Sumanji, that us millennials, like those who were born in the 80s and 90s, we have seen so many of our parents sometimes have a bad relationship or a bad marriage,
Hmm.
but we've also seen them continue with that bad relationship, and we would always see now that some of those bad habits, some of those bad relationship habits have transferred to us, because we have grown up seeing um, that it was fine between our parents to behave like that. So when a relationship is bad, when a relationship is angry, when a relationship is abusive, it has a direct impact on the kids, because they either live in the fear that there will be some kind of abuse about to happen, some kind of fight about to happen between our parents, and at the same time they will either be absorbing the fact that okay, this abuse and this kind of fights and this kind of relationship is normal. They would assume that because kids don't have any other parameter of a relationship other than their parents, right? That's
Yeah.
our first benchmark. That if
Yes.
our parents, like I would give you the example of me and my husband. I come from a happy, loving family where my father and my mother had a love marriage back then in the 80s, and they were like best friends. They constantly shared everything. Every decision in my household was a team decision. Like my father and mother sat together and took that decision. So I come from a very happy, balanced family, and I always looked upon them like, okay, when I get married, I want to be like this with my partner. But at the same time, my husband comes from a household where his father was abusive, and he used to drink a lot, and eventually they got divorced, and he had to fill in his father's shoes in terms of trying to calm down all the emotional issues in the house, trying to provide financially since a very young age, and it all became a very, and he doesn't express as much, he doesn't talk as much, and that created a lot of issues in our relationship, in our marital relationship.
You told that uh, parents issues also get transferred to child, so
Yes,
might be
that's what
might be
we
a
call.
reflection.
Yes, and that's what we call generational trauma, right? That how you transfer, which is also again a thing. For example, if we see our grandparents, they've seen worse things in life, like partition, emergency,
Yeah.
a new nation being formed. All of those things were absorbed by our grandparents' generation. So they lived in a certain amount of fear that, okay, something. They saw two wars, right? The 1960s and 70s. They saw wars happening.
Yes.
India Pakistan wars again and again, Indo China war. So they
Yes.
lived in a constant state of fear and emergency that anytime something bad will happen and we'll have to just pick up everything and leave, or they feared for their life overall, and that fear got transferred into our parents generation. If you see, they only have one single uh, one job all their life. They don't take risks, they only stick to what they know, and they also eventually try to control their kids because they have been taught that sab kuch, like everything has to be in control, only then everything will be fine. If you let go, you have the fear of unknown. If you let go, you never know what will happen. So that control got transferred to our generation, and it's our generation is the one who has seen the most changes, right? When we were kids, we never had phones, we never had TV. Now we have phone, TV, internet, and so many more new things. So we are constantly dealing with change. So all of these things have got amalgamated. I call our generation a sandwich generation, that we are seeing so many new changes and we are having to deal with so many new lifestyles, that, and at the same time we are holding on to our what we say, the uh, the usul, and all the things that we've been told by our parents, that no, this is how things are supposed to be, this is right and this is wrong. So we've all dealt with that issue together. So that generational trauma has existed in every generation, and if we don't fix it right now, if we don't take therapy, then our next generation will carry forward the same patterns, the same trauma.
How did you name your podcast, Shoki? I am very curious about it. Who gave it a name?
So it was me, obviously, because I'm I'm the writer in the relationship. So Karan is the technical guy. He takes a step back in all of these things. And I used to always joke with him that everybody told me that it's going to be happily ever after, happily ever after, happily ever after. Where is happily ever after? Because we are just constantly facing issues. So I decided to name this happily whatever comes after. Basically, so it's a pun on the phrase happily ever after. I would like to tell everybody, all our listeners, your listeners, my listeners, that happily ever after does not exist. It's a myth. When you're in a relationship, you're together, so you have to accept that it's going to be happily whatever after. Whatever comes after, you have to take it happily and together as a couple.
This sounds good. together as a couple, because
Yes.
it's not like only uh, male should compromise. It should not be like, it should be only female who have to understand and go ahead. So it should be
No,
like
it's a two-way street.
together. Now, what is whatever?
It's a very, very broad question. But
Yes.
I would say between a couple, it's as good as whatever, in the sense, uh, your your family issues, your financial issues, or when there are no issues, then it's the fact that, oh, now it's getting too boring, nothing is happening, no drama is happening, how is this going to go forward? If you are alone with yourself, are you comfortable being alone with each other, or do you constantly need somebody else to fill in that silence between the two of you? So when I say whatever, I mean everything. That whether you want to have kids, you don't want to have kids. When you have kids, how are you going to be a strict parent, or are you going to be a calm and composed and cool parent who's going to give their children all the freedom in the world? So all of these things are basically, again, coming back to what I say every time, that it's a life partnership. You are going to be together for life, so
Yeah.
whatever will continue throughout the life. It can be in any form. So this is my definition of whatever.
Now, tell me, many couples would have approached you with their problems. So when you come up with a solution and that works, and they, you know, uh, become again happy, whatever after, how will you feel?
Yes, it's one of the reasons that we started this podcast, because we used to be able to help a lot of our cousins and friends who are younger, who are now getting into a marriage or a relationship. And they would often come to us thinking that, oh, these guys might know something. They've been together for 13 years. So they might know something. And we used to help them, and we used to feel that. So there were failures also, that some of our advice never went through to people, and people didn't follow it, or people didn't see it the way we saw, and they ended up not being together. So we saw both the cases, that where people were very happy with whatever we helped them out with, and there were also people who did not agree with what we suggested. So we both always used to feel very responsible in giving that advice, that you can't give such advice lightly.
Yeah.
You have to be very uh, responsible in thinking and saying what you are saying. So we always were used to feel very responsible, that we should not advise them from a light perspective. We should not be saying such things lightly, that be together or don't be together, or do this or don't do that in a relationship. So we were always very cautious of giving those advice, but when we did, we gave it with all our heart, and we always told them what we went, where we went wrong, and how they should not repeat those problems. And we always used to feel very good. It felt like we had some kind of purpose to play in other people's life as well. So, which is why we thought that why not do it for a larger audience, right? That
Yes.
if I can help 4 people, maybe 14 people will also benefit from the same advice.
Yeah.
I feel proud. I'm glad that I'm able to help somebody else. I'm able to spread some happiness in their life, in their relationship. And the best partnership and the best friendship is your marriage. So if you are able to be best friends with your partner, then there is nothing better than that. If I am able to play even a 1% role in fixing somebody's happiness, in adding to somebody's prosperity and happiness, then I'll be more than happy every time I see some success in somebody's relationship.
Initially, when you gone through problems in your
Yes.
relationship, so
Yeah.
I'm talking about your early days.
Yes.
So, like, what was the extreme things you have gone through?
Oh, there's a whole lot of extreme things that we went through.
One top one extreme.
So I would say that it was interference of the parents in our relationship, which was always the biggest problem. Whether it was in case of asking for dowry, or whether it was in case of wanting us to live life a certain way. Like, there were things that were told to me to not say to Karan, and to not tell him, and to always have some kind of boundary between me and Karan, which we both never agreed to, because we thought that if we are in this together for life, then there has to be no secrets between us. There has to be everything crystal clear. Everything has to be on, we should be on the same page. So I would say the biggest problems always came from somebody else trying to control our relationship and trying to tell us how to do our relationship.
All right. My question to you is, Shoki, how do you know Karan?
So this is this is a very filmy story. I first saw Karan on the first day of my job in Star TV. I was recruited as an intern, and it was the very first day of my job, and I was sitting there waiting for the HR because I was over punctual. So I was 20 minutes early to my
Oh,
first day at job. So firstly, the HR made fun of me that, oh, who comes so early? Now you have to wait. So you sit at the reception and wait. So I was sitting at the reception, and in walks one guy, and I look at him and I'm like, everything else, it in a very filmy way, everything else
love at
slows
first sight.
down. Yeah, yeah. I looked at him and I'm like, okay, universe, this is what I want. So take that order and bring me this guy.
Okay, now I'm stopping you here. Now,
Hmm.
did you ever felt like that is this guy the same one whom I saw that day?
No, I feel that every single day that uh, what I fell in love with an image of Karan, which was in my mind when I actually, and which I think is the case with every relationship. When we fall in love with a person, we fall in love thinking that this person will be what we want.
Hmm.
We have an image of a person when we fall in love, that okay, this person will be romantic, this person will do this, and I was driven by a lot of Bollywood notions. In that sense, I had grown up on a healthy dose of Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan 90s movies. And I used to love thinking that, oh, when I fall in love, it's going to be so amazing. And the man is going to woo me and like sweep me off my feet. You know, that happily ever after is what I used to think. That once I fall in love, it will be, everything will be happily, happily ever after. Then later I found out that, oh, what I think of Karan does not match. Forget
Uh,
romantic. He doesn't even talk as much. He's not expressive. So I had to do a lot of work in the relationship to make the images match.
okay, again I'm stopping you here. Today,
Yeah.
when you look at Karan, what do you feel?
Yes.
Is this the man, the same one who you met at Star TV?
No, and I'm very, very grateful that he's not the same person,
Oh, this is interesting. Now tell me about this. Elaborate.
because I'm also not the same person who fell in love with that man. Because we are both so much better, we are both so much mature in the relationship. We have so many reality checks in life. We don't wear those same rosy glasses to look at life anymore. And we are such better friends. We have no secrets between us. We are constantly taking life with a pinch of salt and discussing our problems, discussing our issues. Whereas back then, if I compare with today's relationship, that relationship was a lot of with a lot of problems, a lot of undercurrents, a lot of unspoken issues. Whereas today, our relationship, touchwood, has been the best we know so far. So this is definitely a better, like now this is Karan and Shokhi 2.0, which is obviously 2.0, right? Like how iPhone 15 is going to be better than iPhone 12.
Yes.
So we are talking about now Karan and Shokhi 2.0, so they are better than the original things we saw.
Yes. I have seen many couples wherein the women feels like, my husband won't talk to me much. He don't tells me about
Hmm.
anything. He don't discuss with me. He don't share any of his feelings with me. He's only happy with his friends and with his phone. Okay, and
Yeah.
when I talk to her husband, his story is
Hmm.
something else. He says that what more I could talk to her. I am talking to her. Though I'm talking to her, though I'm expressing everything to her, but still she feels that, I'm not talking to her. So
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
appears very complicated.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about this?
So there are two ways I would like to point out here. One is that um, there is a thing called love languages. So all of us, there are 5 love languages, and all of us have a certain love language that we want to be loved in. For instance, one of them is words of affirmation, one of them is physical touch, one of them is acts of service. So for instance, if my love language is that words of affirmation, so I want Karan to tell me nice things about myself, that you're so beautiful, or you're so strong, I'm so proud of you. Unless Karan says those things, I will not feel loved.
Hmm.
I will feel, even if then Karan gets me a BMW or Mercedes, and he's expecting कि मैंने सब कुछ, like I've done everything for you, I've got you these many gifts, then why don't you feel loved? The problem is it's not my love language. So it's like uh, we are talking in English, but I only understand Japanese. So how will I accept what you're saying in English? I'll just not understand. So similarly, if one partner's love language is something else and the other partner is speaking in their own love language, then the whole effort will be futile. It will just be zero, because you'll not be able to communicate. And if I remove all of this love language jargon, and if I tell you in a normal, uh, everyday way, I would say that there are efforts to be put in from both sides. So if a man thinks that I am communicating but my wife is not listening, so what do I do? And if a wife thinks that my man doesn't talk to me, then both of them also need to look inside themselves, that where are they going wrong. Because it's it's not a, like you say no in Hindi, that when you clap you need two hands.
Yeah.
it
And
it
that
does
is the
not
that
work
is the
one way.
biggest example what our parents give us.
Yes. Yes, you have to, but I'm not talking like our parents, I'm saying it in a more practical way, that uh, it's a very human thing to do, that we will always blame the other person,
Hmm, hmm.
whether it's a love relationship or whether it's a sibling relationship also. Like you will always say, right, ki my brother doesn't listen to me only, he doesn't, I try to tell him good things to do in life, but he doesn't listen, and now
He
look what
always
happened.
treats me, in other way. Like he always thinks
Yeah,
negative about me.
correct. So again, am I thinking that he doesn't listen to me, or am I always talking to him in an authoritative and angry way so that he shuts down every single time? So similarly, if I am a wife who's constantly assuming before even saying anything, I'm assuming that my husband is not going to listen to me, then my husband is not going to listen to me because I've already assumed in my mind that it's not going to happen. And this, I'm speaking from my own experience because I did this in my relationship for a very long time.
Mm.
Like in the previous question you asked, right, that is Karan the same person? Back then I used to think that why is Karan not behaving like Shah Rukh Khan? He has to behave like him. He has to bring me flowers. But am I actually realizing that my expectations of him behaving as Shah Rukh Khan are unreal? Or
Yeah.
am I, like, I'm joking right now. This is not a practical example, but in the same way, if I'm assuming that Karan is going to behave a certain way because I want him to, so that will only last for a few moments in a relationship, and it will
Karan
only last
have to
in.
act.
Yes, he's not himself. He may do that to please me
Yes.
when we are boyfriend girlfriend, but when it converts to a marriage, it will very soon the act will be up. It will just end because you can't act for your life.
And today, husband comes home from work, wife also comes home from work. Then husband has his phone in hand. She carries her phone in hand and she's busy with her phone. Husband is busy with his phone. Where is the
Yeah.
space to talk?
So I would say that phones have really actually created a major distraction in all our lives, in all our relationships also, not just husband wife. Even when we are sitting with our parents, we are not actually talking to them. Our parents are also sitting and like watching their Facebook videos or watching WhatsApp videos and stuff. So it's a there has to be a conscious realization of this happening in the relationship, and we need to find a no gadget time in the day. Like for example, at 9 o'clock in the night, both my and Karan's phone have a timer set where all our social media gets logged and the phone turns black and white, so we are not able to even enjoy looking at anything. And this is an alarm that we've set from 9 o'clock in the night till 9 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
So we know that this is a no phone time. This is a cutoff time. Yes, we can receive some urgent calls or something that comes during that time, but nothing else works on the phone. Everything else is locked.
Hmm.
And it's ironic, how bachpan mein, like when we were kids, our mothers used to shut the remote and hide the remote eventually so that we don't watch TV. This is
Yes.
how we have to do with our phones. So it's the same with us. Now there is no mother, we have to be our mothers.
Yeah.
We have to be our own mothers and do this to save our relationships and continue to connect in real life.
The moment you started, the moment you decided to start this show,
Yes,
what kind of criticism you have received from your friends and family?
the biggest criticism is that how can you share so many personal details on a show? Like how can you share all of your vulnerabilities? And our answer has just always been that why not, when there are so many other people going through the same problems? Then what's the harm in sharing it and telling them that this happens to all of us?
How
This is
many
one biggest
episodes you have done so far, Shoki?
20 episodes
So,
so far.
which one is your favorite?
I think the first episode is my favorite because I describe in a very filmy detail of how I fell in love with Karan and how our initial days of relationship was so rocky, and still we are together today. So it's a reminder of how much we have gone through, and how good it was initially when we thought that everything is going to be very fun and happy.
This
I
question
want you guys
you
to
have
be
to
together
answer,
forever,
and
Shoki,
there is no
and
option to
the
say no.
kind of work you are doing through this podcast, happily whatever after, is worth saluting.
And you guys are really bringing a lot of change in today's relationships, and I want you guys to continue this way forever. And now the question coming up for you is this question you have to answer, and there is no option to say no.
Okay.
If you have all the superpowers in your hands, Shoki,
Yes.
so
Yes.
tell me what you want to change in this country.
Okay. So if I have the superpower here, one thing I want to change in our country is the male mindset that only females are supposed to manage everything around the house. Only female are supposed to manage the emotions in the relationship. I want the male perspective to be more inclusive of females and stop thinking that females are lesser. I want them to start thinking more as women are equal to them and women are their friends and not their enemies.
Great. How would my listeners reach out to your podcast, Shoki?
My podcast is available on all podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, everywhere. It's under the name of Happily Whatever After. We are also on all social media platforms under the name of Happily Whatever After Pod. So you can go to Instagram and type at the rate happily whatever after pod, and you will see snippets of our life and whatever craziness Karan and I have, and whatever wisdom Karan and I have to share on the Instagram page as well. And similarly, you guys can also write to us on Gmail. Our email ID is happily whatever after pod at the rate gmail.com. If there are some issues that you want us to address in our episodes, if there are some questions you have for us, you can write us on this email ID.
My dear listeners, I'm also giving you direct link to the podcast. You can also click on the link and enjoy the podcast. And I strongly recommend you guys to go and check out because most of your questions are going to be answered for sure. And the good news is, I'm trying to bring Karan, the showman, soon on my show so that we can also listen to the man's side of the show.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you so much, Shoki, for giving me this beautiful opportunity to host you on Suman versus Human.
Thank you so much, Sumanji, for like speaking such kind words about our podcast, for helping me reach a bigger audience, helping me reach more people, so that our mission can be accomplished. That everybody should know that we are with them in happily whatever after.
Do subscribe or follow on your favorite platform.